Recording.
Morning.
And I'm just going to interrupt for a second, Kevin, that penny ration we don't have right now.
Ah, yes, yes. Well, let's get started. It's 8:30 and this is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Selectmen's Advisory Committee on Buildings and Infrastructure, or Infrastructure and Buildings, whichever it is. And everyone's here for the committee except for Penny Ration. Hopefully will be joining us. I see we have Dr. Keating and Dan Clark as well for the Board of Ed. Thank you for joining us, as well as all our staffers and on the town side. And there's Penny. All right, so we have a full house. So I'll call the meeting to order, and the minutes were circulated by Maria for the last meeting. Any comments, corrections on the minutes from the last meeting? Oh, I see we have Kathleen Corbett with us too. Good morning, Kathleen.
Morning.
Any comments, corrections on the minutes? I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes for the December meeting.
Moved.
Penny moved, Neil seconded. All in favor? Aye. Yes. Okay. All right. So actually, Tiger, would you mind leading the agenda, since I don't have it in front of me? I think we have, at George's suggestion, we decided to focus on a topic today. And then Tiger will do a review of the not yet final 2022 capital budget. We'll only do the town side because the Board of Ed capital budget is being brought to the Board of Ed tonight, Joanne.
Correct.
So we don't have that yet, but oh, I forgot Linda is actually joined us. Okay, so and Mark Robbins has joined us. So Tiger, what's
Item number 3 is energy savings projects discussion for fiscal 21-22. We asked Mark to give us a synopsis of where we are and where we're headed. So I'm gonna hand it over to Mark to kind of talk you through. He has the draft memo that he prepared for us that he'll tweak slightly for us, but he'll present that and move forward from there.
Tiger, you're also going to present the conversion to gas for the town buildings and the schools. Do you have that?
Well, that'll be in the major capital projects. Yeah, that'll be proposals as far as where we are and where we're going.
Okay.
All right, Mark.
Yep. Right. Let's see. I'm going to screen share here and walk you through our draft presentation, and then this will be refined shortly, and I can redistribute it. So let me try the screen share here. And we do have some pictures to look forward to, so it's not all numbers.
I would note that we asked Mark to do this on short notice. So this, I would regard this as a draft, which we're going to further polish for the Board of Selectmen budget meetings in the upcoming 2 weeks, and the Board of Finance in February.
So somebody has to enable, it says host disabled screen sharing. So I guess you have to just,
Hey.
Okay.
Hold on, Mark.
So can everybody see this?
No.
Hold on. Hold on,
Reply to
Mark. I just made you the co-host, so give that a shot now.
Okay.
There we go.
So I'm going to just do full screen on this, and okay, so it's 11 pages, but I'm going to hit you with the executive summary first, and then we'll drill down. And please jump in with questions, and I'll try to get through it. Just a high level what we've done, where we're going, and some decisions we'll need to make. So please don't take any of these numbers as budgetary savings yet, because they're not all fully baked with net costs in the cases of the systems that the town has bought, but we're just showing you projected stabilized annual savings numbers, just to get a sense of the order of magnitude of the impact that the solar and CHP systems are going to have on the town fiscally. And I've gotten into a lot of trouble in the past by talking all about the economics when the basis of this work is about decarbonization, environmental attributes, and air quality. And we haven't touched on any of that, let alone even try to quantify that. But that's why these programs exist. But we're going to grossly discredit all the environmental benefits and just tell you about the economic benefits in this. So at a very high level, solar savings, for the solar projects that we have completed in 2021, we have not yet had a full year of commissioned production from that package of systems. The town hall is the only one that we've got a full year as of the time I put these numbers together, but it'll balance out in the next few months. The Nature Center, the DPW garage, the pool house, those were all commissioned in the first quarter of 2020. So we don't have a full year of production, but the 101,000 does take into account the savings, approximately 40,000 generated from the South School solar project. So what we're looking at is 4 half-baked solar systems for the town plus the solar system, the one solar system for South School. That's the 101,000. The 78,000 is projected year one savings for the solar systems that are under development now. And when I say under development, that includes an estimate, and I wasn't involved in the commissioning and review of those the data for eSchool, but I was for the 2 other PPAs that have been executed for West and Saks. So I'm just qualifying that. We're estimating the savings for those 3 school systems upon stabilization to be 78,000 year one. What happens with these savings is we've locked in either 20 or 25 year flat fixed rate PPAs. The first year is always bumpy. There's commissioning involved. There's delays on various interconnection components, but the savings really become very significant as you mature into the PPA. What we did is a flat rates. A lot of projects people do is they front load the savings, so they have a better savings up front, but then there's an escalation in the price. In our case, we save the savings till the end. So all of these numbers, we're looking at a fixed rate electric cost, which becomes very interesting 5, 10, 15 years down the road, where we fixed our electric rate at a cost today with no inflation. But so the third number here is projected year one savings from solar PPA pending execution. I shouldn't really call that pending execution because you haven't even fully reviewed it. That would be, it's really the small solar systems that we have pricing on, but haven't entered into a PPA that came from the multi-building RFP this summer, namely the water treatment plant and the Saks Parks garage. That would be the 14,000, but we're not even under contract for those yet. It's pending roof replacement. So it's not fair to take those as budgetary savings yet. But if I were to snap my fingers and we executed PPAs based on the numbers we've got for all the town buildings, including the wastewater plant from the RFP we all issued this summer, the combined savings upon stabilization would be about 194,000 a year. And those were, and then we can give you an extrapolation out what this savings would be over a 25-year period. So for the committee to consider additional solar opportunities, there'll be a decision to make about the high school. This summer we applied for a medium ZREC for the high school, and we were not selected. I resubmitted for standby interest. We went through three rounds of standby until 2 weeks ago. We were told that we did not make the cut. So it's up to you if you want to apply for they've opened the small ZREC program. It'll be open for 2 weeks. So we've got a sure thing if we wanted to do a small ZREC, and you'd have about 18 months to act on it, but you'd have to prepare enough roof space to accommodate a small ZREC within 18 months at the high school. And that's a sure thing. Everything else is not a sure thing. I'm not sure where the program's going this summer, but so we'll have a decision to make on applying for ZRECs for the high school, Dunning Field, we could apply for the Dunning Field meter. It's been a crazy one to look at because if you asked me a year ago, there's big savings if we could solarize the Dunning Field lights. But I took a quick look at the bills recently, and there's not a lot of usage during COVID because there wasn't a lot of lighting of the ballpark, I guess, this past summer. And this probably doesn't belong in this presentation, but police station, it is a municipal building, and they do have a small ZREC that we could apply for. We'd have to act on it or extend it with a deposit. You'd have to act on it in about 18 months or extend it, and it might be an opportunity for a carport. Lapham Community Center, an item for discussion because we have ZRECs for it, and I'm going to show you some pictures of what could be done there. You have ZRECs for it, but we haven't acted on it, and we don't have pricing yet.
Hey, Mark, let me just interject there, back to Dunning Field. I think those lights, Ted, correct me if I'm wrong, but the lights at the Dunning Field are 20 years old. And just by upgrading to,
You're talking about conversion to LED?
yeah. Yeah, that's something the Athletic Foundation has discussed because the electric bill for Dunning is quite considerable. But part of it is just the technology of the existing lights, which are old. So I just mentioned that.
And one of the thoughts there was that we discussed it a few months back. You could apply. We could secure a small ZREC right now. The program just opened. It's open for two weeks to solarize the Dunning Field lights. Needs a little work to figure out if we're going to be converting to LED and the controls and what a go forward use of those field lights would be after COVID. Then the next question is, it's always least expensive to put them on a surface that exists, meaning put them on a roof surface. And we were looking at putting those panels on the roof of the gym extension at the high school, but that gym extension would need to be re-roofed. So one path forward for these ZRECs would be to apply for a small ZREC for the Dunning Field lights and a small for the high school meter right now. And then do roof work sufficient enough to accommodate those two small systems on the roof of the high school, one benefiting the high school, one benefiting the Dunning Field. And each of those systems would be about the size of the system we installed on the DPW garage. That was a pure 100 kW build out.
So Mark,
Yeah.
why, this is Penny, why were we turned down for the median ZREC? Because we're looking at the high school about doing a full roof replacement pretty over the next couple of years. I mean, Joanne would have a better idea of the timing. And a small ZREC would be helpful, but obviously there's a lot more ability at the high school to have solar. What's the thinking there in turning this down for that? And is there any way to go back to the the people, the commission or whoever it is that awards them?
Well, I like that. Well, people have been successful with that, with appeals and so forth. But so the reasoning was that it's for these medium ZRECs, it's very complicated. The utility's moving away from this very complicated program where they co-sponsor solar systems by putting on a ZREC meter and giving you cash based on what it generates and then putting in a two-way meter. They're moving to something very different over the summer and they haven't figured out what it is. What I would say at a high level is that because we were turned down for this medium, and there is a way that we can reattack this with one or two small systems. And I could give you a path forward where we'd apply for a small, but then we have to interconnect it and then apply for another small and interconnect it. We could do those two small. It's just a construction rhythm sequence. It's a little trickier because we mobilize twice. But I will say that it makes the case for CHP all the more important, because that's something you can control. And so CHP and LED lighting all the more important because as of today, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to get a whole lot of solar on the high school unless things change.
Mark,
And
Mark, could you explain that? I always, isn't it sort of an auction and we're putting it at a price, or are we not getting it because of the price we're offering, or what?
we're not getting it. So so on these mediums, it's a Dutch auction. What they do is they stack up all the applications, and the folks asking for the least amount of money get called first. We applied for initially, like a couple of years ago in Wilton, I was applying for $125 Z-Rex. We got them all. Next year, we applied for New Canaan. We were like at $105 Z-Rex. We got them. We dropped down to $90 for this application this year for the high school. And we were just under the median where bidders were coming in at $80 Z-Rex. The less you bid, the less your Z-Rex are worth and the less your savings would be. But it was somewhat of a lottery. And like I said, we were in the running, we were on a standby, and they exhausted their money before they got to our application. So there may be one more round of the medium. I'm trying to interpret Pura's decision on this, and that round may occur next fall, but I'm not clear yet on that. So I need to do a little work and get back to you.
So if you apply for a small Z-Rec, does that hurt your chances to apply for a medium Z-Rec?
No, the small Z-Recs are a sure thing. They're a sure thing. They open the application for a 2-week window. Sometimes they extend it, and you're pretty much guaranteed it as long as you can use the energy. You can apply for as many Z-Recs as you want. For example, we applied at the DPW garage water treatment plant site. We did the small, we installed it last year, and we applied again and we got the small so we could do another one. But you have to commission, you have to install the Z-Recs you've been awarded before you can apply again. So that's.
So wait, so if we apply for a small, we can't apply for a medium until we install the small?
Not until you install it. So, for example,
Oh, okay.
you could apply
So
for another, if you needed the power, which I don't think you do. I could talk to Dan and Joanne, but over at South School, like we have a fully commissioned operating solar system on the roof. And if for some reason, because of the new chiller, you needed more electricity, you could apply now for a small system at South School and put carports, for example, for electric buses in the future or something. But it has to be, you have to have two things. One is you have to have installed what you got, and B, you have to demonstrate you have additional load that's not being supported by the solar. So, then jumping into the combined heat and power, again, very high level. The CHP systems, which is a small Yanmar unit at the DPW garage and one at the water treatment plant building. We're looking to generate approximately $82,000 a year in net savings after gas and maintenance cost. That is savings that we'll enjoy once the gas line gets there. So it can't really come all out of this year's budget because EverSource, we're ahead of EverSource on our install, and I'll show you some pictures, but we don't even have the gas to the site yet. So they're not saving that money yet, but they hopefully will start to save that on an annualized basis in a few months. And then SAC's CHP system, that's going to be a very different system, how it behaves. But in terms of cost, we have budgetary costs and savings of approximately $81,000. And once that CHP system is installed, but obviously that can't come out of this year's budget because it's not even there yet. And then the high school is a slightly better candidate. With a high level, based on data from a year ago, when I just looked at the bills, it could accommodate a system of approximately twice the size of SAC's. And the payback is a little better because of the energy profile of the high school. Your payback, your yield on cost for a CHP system at the high school should be slightly better than it is at SAC's. So if you were to install on a go forward basis, the savings, this is just savings, not cost, but savings of the 3 planned CHP sites. There are actually 4 total because we did 2 buildings just now at the DPW garage and the treatment plant. But the combined year 1 savings is approximately $317,000.
So a question for you on that, Mark. What size CHP at Saks generates these savings?
That is approximately a 70 kW system. I'm thinking 235s, but it's a 75 kW capacity system.
And so we have a 2-phase project that, the first phase is the 75, and we were going to add another 75 next year. So would these savings double, or is there some degradation because of the
You're going to
usage?
get the most out of your first, really your first 35 is what you're going to get. You're going to, if you were to break it down into 35 kW systems, you'd be running that at the SAC school. And your first 35 kW system, you're going to be running that probably 11 months out of the year. Your second 35 unit, you're going to be getting a little bit less bang for the buck. You're probably running that one 9 months out of the year. If you did a third 35, you're probably running that third one only half the year, if that. I don't see a need for 2 75s ever at Saks, especially because you're doing solar and lighting, LED lighting. You'd be having an islanded asset. I think that second 75 kW unit is likely not to get used much. I would deploy that capital first over at the high school, because high school, frankly, I mean, I know this is just all based on budget and sequence of your boiler work, probably with driving that. But if you were just doing CHP, and you started this, fresh, I would do the first CHP unit at the high school. And then the second CHP I would have done at Saks, just based, if your decisions were just based on CHP and you didn't have boilers in the mix.
Okay, so the second question for you, what is the breakout between natural gas and electric savings in the numbers? You don't have to answer it right now, but can you get us that?
I think I have a high level for you on that. And I'd like to get a little bit involved in that when I say at the bottom here, obviously we said that East School and South School are candidates for CHP, but those are much smaller systems. Like on a perfect payback analysis, if the equipment was available, I'm guessing East School, we're probably looking at like a 15 kW system. And South School is 15 kW, East School maybe 135 kW system, but those are much smaller systems. And we'd have to look at where you are with your solar and your chiller and your lighting, but those are smaller. And they're neck and neck. The payback on Saks and the high school for the first 70 kW worth of CHP versus Saks versus the high school, the payback's very similar. It's just slightly faster at the high school, I would say. But I'll show you what the real unique thing about those high schools is this rate class 56. If you look at your bills at the high schools, like the high school in Saks, almost half of your bill is coming from demand charges, which would mean you want software that optimizes, that dispatches the CHP to offset those demand peaks. And you'd be dumping heat, but there are certain times that turning that CHP system on is going to save you 3 or 4 times as much on electric as it does the other times of the year, where you could chip away at your demand charges, even though you're dumping the heat. So that algorithm, that sequence of operation really needs to be looked at. Once you have solar and CHP at Saks and the high school, synchronizing those controls is where you can really leverage a lot of savings. During peak times. The implementation of the CHP system at the wastewater treatment plant was not as complicated, because those motors at the wastewater treatment plant are running all year round, 24/7. It's very flat. It doesn't have these peaks. But that high school, those schools where you have kids coming in September and the air conditioning's on, then you have a fire drill, and you have those peaks of power being turned on and off, those really impact your total electric expense. So that's where we talk, at the bottom here about demand charge mitigation, dynamic solar, CHP, and chiller controls. What we're looking to do right now is software where we pre-cool the buildings based on predictive weather data to avoid demand charges. And we bring up the CHP system when the clouds come over and cut back on the solar production. So we're looking at all these energy assets to start to shave your demand charges, which we can look at later. But that's where sort of controls and software become very important. So jumping into the recent, so there's just a little bit of a drill down on the recently installed solar systems. So Town Hall South, Pool House, DBW Garage and Nature Center, it was a combination of those town systems were owned, the town bought them cash, and the town keeps the ZRECs and the energy savings. And in the case of South School, it was a PPA. So the ZRECs are pledged to the system owner in return for a lower electric bill. So the economics are a little different. So on the when we break out the municipal solar systems, the town is getting on their 4 small solar systems they purchased, the town's getting that $37,000 a year of electric savings, plus they're keeping their ZRECs, $22,000, for a total of almost $60,000 in savings year to date. South School, the school systems, and what we're looking to do PPAs moving forward, much simpler. We just have electric savings. So that South School solar system, we were looking to save about, I think we've saved about $41,000 roughly to date. So the total installed solar systems to date, just over 0.5 megawatt, and estimated to produce about 660,000 kilowatt hours a year. And the cost savings, just over 100,000 to date since we've started this initiative. And that's the reason it's not a perfect number is if you look at the chart on the bottom, like Town Hall, we've got a full year of production, but South School, Pool House, DPW Garage, like Nature Center didn't even come online until July of 2020. So this first year is not a complete, the last 12 months haven't been a complete picture of what your total energy savings will be on a go forward basis, right? So the DPW Garage, that didn't come online until February of 2020.
So Mark, do you have a number for what the savings are once you net in the full costs? I mean, these are just these are the electric savings, but they don't take into account the costs for the, buying the systems?
Right.
I mean,
So,
right.
So
I was just curious about what the net is.
So on that municipal solar number, and that was a very good question, and I'll add this for more detail. But that municipal solar system, that was about a $550,000 acquisition to buy the 4 town solar systems, about roughly a $550,000 acquisition. And the savings to date on the town solar systems, about $59,000 to date. So I think when we ran the numbers, it was something like a 7-8 year payback. I'll have to check, but
Okay, that's close. Okay.
Yeah, it was an 8-year payback, Mark.
8-year payback. Okay.
Just under 8, yeah.
And actually Joe was asking for this detail as well earlier. I have to get it to him, but on South School, like that was a pure PPA where we had structured it, where there was an RFP cost, there was MHR development cost, but 99% of that was capitalized into the PPA and you were reimbursed for it. So that is a real net savings number. That's pretty clear. That one. How we're so kind of moving forward, we're looking to do PPAs and those are real simple, and the net savings and like the participation cost, the RFP, and all that upfront cost is returned to the host when they execute a PPA, so that we're baking all those numbers into the approach. So here, these are the 3 school solar projects. which are under development. This is the 78,000 in estimated annual year one savings. And these savings might not be so exciting in the first year, but as inflation impacts everything else in your budget, and your electric cost for this amount of power is fixed for 20 or 25 years, it becomes really, really significant. So West and Sac School solar systems, we're looking to save a little over $50,000 a year, year one, once those are implemented. Applications, so we've awarded those PPAs. Interconnection applications have been made. You'll get another $7,000 back in deposits when these things are commissioned. And in a few months, hopefully we'll have solar panels there and we'll be saving money. That's for West and Sacs. Those contracts have been awarded and applications, engineering is underway. And East School is probably, Joanne is probably ready to go live about
Yes.
now.
Yep,
It
it is.
Okay. And we're looking at approximately 27,000. I had looked at the numbers from Davis Hill, and these were really from Davis Hill. I wasn't directly involved in this one. I think Davis Hill was using a 2% estimated inflation rate for utilities, which I think is actually kind of very low, almost too conservative. I would use a 3%. So I would estimate the savings on that e-school system to be more in the $750,000 range on the 20-year contract. So I think these are very conservative numbers. Although you see, we did get the benefit of when we did the RFP, we were able to bring costs down for West and Sacs into the 3.5 cent range. That was good. And then pending solar systems for the committee to discuss and us to look at, in the nearer term would be, so Penny, like we installed a solar system at the DPW garage on that same meter. And since it was commissioned, we were awarded another small, which we could install on the water treatment plant. And so this chart looks at the small town buildings that were part of this summer's multi-building RFP. The big ones were the schools. We've executed those agreements. They're moving forward. And this is something for the town to look at. The big one here is the water treatment plant. These are all smalls. Would require re-roofing the roof on the water treatment plant, which is approximately 20 years old right now. And cost justification there would be a little over $400,000 of total savings for a solar system on the treatment plant. In each of these cases, you also get back the money you put up. You get $2,500 if you execute it on any of these three. You get $2,500 back from the installer for participation in the RFP, plus your surety payments. So that's good. But so that's kind of what it would look like if you did the treatment plant, the Saks Parks garage. What's not included in these numbers is Lapham Community Center, which is a medium ZREC we secured about a year ago and really don't have a path forward on what to do with yet. So let me just tell you a little bit about Lapham. And then solar opportunities for evaluation. The New Canaan High School, we should probably apply for the small ZREC now and either plan to do 2 smalls, or I can look into any sort of pure appeal on that medium, but I don't know that it can happen. I will say there's some good news in the solar world, which is under the Biden administration, it's expected that the tariff on solar panels will be dropped. So the cost of panels starting this spring will go down, which will help the overall world of solar a little bit. And the good news of the most recent CARE Act, the CARE Act 2.0 that was released, stopped the step down of the investment tax credit that started up 30% and went down to 26. And all the solar people were freaked out that it was going to go down to 21% investment tax credit in January. So people were hoarding panels, and now there's going to be a glut in the market of the panels, and prices are going to come down on panels. because the CARES Act fixed that 26% investment tax credit, kept it from stepping down. So that's the little bit of complicated good news in the solar world. But on the Lapham Center, we have a medium Z-rack for Lapham. The question is, where do we put the panels? Because you got a slate roof on that Lapham Community Center. And one idea, which I was discussing with Josie, it's not a huge savings. It's a comfort and it's a big environmental benefit, but it's not a huge savings, would be if we put a canopy over these bleachers. And, or you could look at a carport in the Lapham Community Center to cover those cars from elements for the seniors there. But and what would happen if you did that? You get your $3,800 performance assurance back. And even though it would be 120 kW system, your only savings may be about $8,000 a year on average for an estimated 25-year savings of $200,000. But you wouldn't have to pay for the structure. And these three pictures give you an example of what some structures could look like. The one in the middle doesn't have to be red, but would be an example of how you could cover those bleachers with solar panels, solar canopy. The image on the bottom is a curved carport that would be appropriate, that is a relatively low profile for parking spaces, perhaps in the Lapham Community Center. And the one on the top is a very high solar system that would be appropriate on top of municipal equipment. Like if you were to do a high yield solar system in the back of the police station, those panels might look like something at the top here, where they have very high clearance for fire trucks and so forth, emergency service vehicles.
Is that Fairfield High School?
That is Fairfield. Yes, the one on the top is Fairfield.
Mark, just out of curiosity, when you're looking at the bleacher covers as you depicted here, what's the cost of something of that nature installed? Do you have any sense for that? Any scale for that?
So what happens is, since you don't have a roof, so at a very high level, it costs a solar contractor about $2 a watt to put panels on a roof. When they have to build a support for the panels, it costs them about $3 a watt. So if we were putting these panels on a roof, you might see a $15,000 year one savings, but because they have to build the structure, it goes from $2 to $3 a watt to build it. The savings goes down from $15,000 to about $8,000 a year. So what does it cost? It costs something like $3 a watt to build. So it's 50% more than just putting them on your roof as a ballasted system.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can put LED lights under it. You can make it architecturally interesting. But this picture in the middle is a very simplistic concept.
So that 8,000 was a net number, Mark?
8,000 would be your average. We haven't bid this out yet. This is just, back of the envelope numbers. But I would think you would get to something based on your high Z-REC values. You would get to something like an average of $8,000 a year savings. You get $3,800 back you get your deposit back, and you save about $8,000 a year on average for if you did it 25 times 25 years. That's kind of what it would look like. So these are a little more complicated. There's, obviously you're putting a structure that requires, other agencies to get involved in the permitting and review. But I didn't want to just totally ignore it because you have that opportunity.
And Mark, in terms of maintenance on a structure of that kind, is that the town's responsibility? I'm assuming painting and upkeep?
Well, if you bought it and owned it, it would be. The solar contractors have O&M in their agreements. And for example, like with the Board of Ed, that was something we negotiated to make sure they gave advance notice to Dan before they came on to blow, annually, where they get up there and they blow off leaves and they, check all the electrical connections. So This would be, if you did a PPA where you just had a shared savings arrangement, it would be the investor's responsibility technically to paint and to clean that. You'd have an access agreement with them, but.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mark, what about, I know that when a group went to look at these at Fairfield, they didn't think they looked so great. But have we ever looked at doing them at a place, where the people don't pass that much, such as the Lumberyard Station or Talmadge Hill? I mean, I know maybe not Lumberyard because people always talk about doing different things there, but Talmadge Hill, does that have too many trees surrounding it to be a location? Or is there no place to use the electricity because there's not a building nearby?
That's the question.
You know,
So-
we could do it at the Waveney Pool and trench the electricity over to Lapham Center. Right, Mark?
Yes.
But then you have the cost of trenching over to Lapham Center. Because the Waveney Pool is a pretty hot parking lot in the summertime.
Right.
What we did is we got PPA pricing to do that, and we acted on the low hanging fruit first, and we didn't act on that. What we did is we just installed a very small solar system on the roof of the pool house.
Right.
But we didn't, that's something you could do. You could put some solar carports in that parking lot for the Waveney Pool House. It's sort of in a knoll. So you won't really see them from anywhere else at Waveney Park. There is some screening there. But the big cost is the trenching. And we had wild numbers on that RFP because the contractors were trying to estimate the cost of doing that trenching that power back to the Lapham meter. That's something to be considered. In the future, well, you have some areas where you could put, solar farms or solar carports, whether it's that parking garage or certainly the Talmadge Hill. I just don't know who pays for the electricity if you're offsetting an electric bill. But in the future, the utilities are looking to do something called a feed-in tariff, where they're doing away with these ZRECs and net metering, and you apply to be a generator and you feed in your power directly to their grid, and they have a chart and they tell you what they're willing to pay for it based on your location. And that's something more applicable for large scale systems, but something to be looked at. I just don't know if you have much of an electric spend on your budget over there at the Talmadge Hill. So I want to just jump in on combined heat and power. So the 2 units that we are installing at the DPW garage, they're really 2 separate systems, and they're going to produce about 580,000 kilowatt hours a year. To put that in perspective, that's about as much as all the solar we've got going on right now produces. So, and it'll produce just about half of the thermal load needed for that site, that complex of buildings. And estimated cost savings on the CHP systems that we have under construction now, net about $82,000 a year. But that can't come out of this year's budget because we don't even have them, they're not even operating yet. So hopefully, this spring they'll be operating. And the 7-year payback, that assumed about a $585,000 capital cost. It was a $505,000 cost for the 2 systems, plus there was project management and contingency. So if you assumed it was 585 or 600,000 all in, it's probably a 7.1 year payback. So that's what so CHP, this is what we've got. This is on site and ready to be connected. In fact, tomorrow we're doing some plumbing and electrical connections. So just to entertain you, the fun we had over the last couple of weeks over New Year's. This top picture is we actually figured out a way, instead of mixing it on site, we shoveled off the snow behind the DPW garage, and we're actually able to get a mixer backed in there, and we poured the pad. And so this was probably the first time a cement truck was in the DPW garage, and it fit. And then we've got the crane rigging unit um, and dropping it very gently back behind the DPW garage. This was when Kevin Moynihan said it's time for him to go to lunch. He thought it was a risky operation. So, but it was a lot of fun. So this was, I guess, was this last week or 2 weeks ago? And the point of these pictures is just so you see what we've done with your money there and how big they are. These are Yanmar 35 kW systems. They're fully integrated. It's got power regulators. It's got the pressure gas connection stabilizers, and it also has its own little preheater and radiator built in. So these units are about the depth of a vending machine and twice as wide. And so, and the bottom picture, that's me with Jim, who runs the water treatment plant. So again, just to give you a sense of how big and scary they are, they're pretty good looking, and it's about the size of two vending machines side by side. They're about 6 feet tall. They're just a little higher because they're on a pad there. So pending CHP systems, Saks and the high school. And these were the numbers, you know, very high level from a year ago that we were looking at for install cost at Saks and the high school. My approach to Saks would be a little more nuanced and would break it out into two 35 kW units, not 175. We're able to negotiate better service contracts on those as well. And this is looking at, I think at the high school, you would probably go for 275s. I think that those numbers would still hold. And these are net savings, net of maintenance and gas costs. And you also get these class 3 RECs that would come to the town. So these class 3 RECs are generated for the benefit of the town, plus the free heat and the electricity. Additional potential CHP systems, smaller systems in the future would be South School and East School. And those would be 35 kW or less, in my estimation.
Mark, let me ask you a question, though. I thought we essentially took South School off the grid with the solar savings. So what are we trying to produce more electricity for there?
Right. So I'd have to take a look at that. I know that at the same time, you've got new air conditioning equipment to prevent mold and moisture in the gym and lobbies there. And I assume your boilers there are not condensing gas boilers, and you have a gas connection. So you could use the thermal, and you could use some of the electric, maybe. We didn't oversize the solar system. We're generating on the roof probably 80% of your electric needs for South. So, but this would be a small CHP system. This would be like a 15 kW CHP system.
And then as far as the high school, why wouldn't we perhaps focus more on generating more electricity by CHP and not do the solar? I mean, the solar is the cheapest energy you can get.
Right. Yeah, it'll be a combination. I mean, I would do the solar you can do just because in the form of a PPA, because it's you know, the ROI on a PPA is effectively infinite because there's no out-of-pocket cost and there's a long-term savings. But the high school is looking like all the more need to really focus on CHP. So you'll have a little bit of solar at the high school and a lot of CHP in this estimate. I put at the bottom here, which is not relevant to this committee, but I just wanted to point out, because you have this natural gas infrastructure, if you ever build a new building and you've got the gas infrastructure in place that you have now, there's something called GHP, which is, it uses a gas-fired engine, the same engine we have in CHP systems, but it provides heating and cooling. So it's a gas-fired compressor, basically a gas-fired chiller, and heat pump. And both the planned new police station and library could take advantage of this ultra-efficient GHP technology, which is the most efficient way to generate cooling with a chiller and free heat. But that would be only on a new build basis. And those would be for those potential buildings that could take advantage of the gas infrastructure you have in place.
So Mark, can I ask a question? Why are you saying we would have a little bit of solar for the high school and lots of combined heat and power for the high school? Why is that preferable to just doing a lot of solar at the high school?
Well, environmentally, solar is the preferable, but in the context of the current program, the ZREC net metering solar program is winding down, and we were not selected for the high school. We got these ZRECs a couple of years ago. We left the high school out of the mix. We came back. We left it out of the mix because you all knew that you were going to be putting on a new roof, and we weren't sure if it was going to be the site for a fuel cell when that microgrid concept was going forward. So we had applied for fuel cell at the high school meter, got the fuel cell agreement. It was an either or. And then did not move forward. That you decided not to place that $68,000 surety payment, which you would have lost because you wouldn't have done the fuel cell because it was more power than you needed for the town. But the sacrifice there was that we didn't apply for solar at the high school, and we were not selected for the medium ZREC for the high school. So we can do a small and maybe two smalls over the next 18 months.
Okay, so Mark, can we talk about those applications for the small ZRECs? Because those are going to have to go in before this group meets again. And, we don't really know what's going to happen with the solar incentives and everything under the Biden administration. As you said, there could be more opportunities. So when we apply over the next 2 weeks, should we limit it to a specific area of the high school? How do you do it to provide us the most flexibility to take advantage of what other new programs might be coming on?
So you can put it anywhere you want. That's up to you. I'd work with Dan on this and Joanne, and I would put your hat in the ring. I think we should make an application for the Dunning Field lights, with the idea of putting solar on the roof somewhere of the high school to support the Dunning Field lights, and then make a small application for the main high school meter. And you could put it, and then we have to work with your roofing team to understand which section to re-roof to accommodate those small solar systems. So having these ZRECs would inform your phase 1 of your roofing plan, I would say.
So Mark, we have funds in the budget to replace the high school roof out of a need for, the building and preserving the envelope of the building. And we're doing it through a lens of putting solar on pretty much all available space that can handle it. And we're working with Tom DeBlasi right now from a structural perspective to inform the RFP, which is going to be going out shortly. So it's been our intention all along to put solar on that school. So I would just recommend that we take a look, even if we don't get the ZRECs, what kind of a PA would we get without the ZREC? And then compare that to the ROI on CHP. And that would give us information that we need to make an educated decision. Because I guess I'm hearing for the first time that solar is not a good option, and I'm just very surprised by that.
Mhm. Yeah, so we don't, so I need to do a little work and see what's going on with the Pura and Eversource and so forth. But we've all known that the program that we are acting under has been sunsetting. And it's been kind of a rush and a panic to jump on and secure the recs we've got. And the high school was our last medium. And we're very successful with all the other schools, Lapham Center and so forth. But this was this is the first time I've actually had one rejected anywhere.
Mhm.
And it's due to lack of funds, and the program they're rolling up the program. They could turn around and just extend the program, and then we'd be back in business. The legislature hasn't decided what they're doing, but Eversource is fighting them on it, saying that these solar systems are causing them to raise rates on their other non-solar customers. So there's no question that CHP, so you've always been planning CHP, so there's all the more reason that I'd be leaning into that 275 kW units at the high school. There's sort of no question that you could use all of that juice. I would really drill down on energy conservation measures in the school. Demand management and refrigeration controls and LED lighting and all that good stuff. And we can definitely get you 2 Z-Recs, 2 smalls right now in the next 2 weeks. I don't know.
Mark, do we already have a high school medium Rex?
No, we lost, it was rejected. The
Yeah, but
medium,
so we don't have any high school Xerox.
nothing on the high school meter.
So the issue here is, I mean, the Board of Ed is gonna put in for CHP for the high school, and so the Selectmen, is Kathleen still with us?
I'm here.
Kathleen, so that, the Selectmen will pass it on for the Board of Finance to decide in February, but that's where George and Neil have to understand, all this is a timing issue, getting solar onto roofs when the roofs have to be done. In some ways, we should have done this 10 years ago, but on the other hand, the roofs weren't ready either. So it's kind of a timing issue. And also these programs are changing, and maybe things will get better with solar with a Biden administration. But there's a lot in motion, and we just have to decide, make some decisions here in February with the Board of Finance. So.
Got
it. The solar there was $1 billion set aside for fuel cells and solar systems by Eversource to meet help offset their load, their portfolio requirements. It was a 6-year plan. It took 9.5 years to deploy the money. It was originally budgeted as a 6-year plan. So they're on fumes right now, and they're out of funds. So that's kind of what's driving it. So nice to see you, Kathleen. So for example, at Waveney, we got the medium for Waveney. We got the medium Xerox. So we've gotten a lot of medium Xerox for the town. We have the medium for the Lapham Center. Could we appeal to transfer a medium to another meter since it's a municipal portfolio? And
Are we applying to Pura or to Eversource?
We applied to Pura for that.
Mhm.
It's worth an application to Pura. You'd get a administrative decision because you've got something called consolidated metering, where all your municipal meters come into one master account, which makes it very hard to figure out what you're being charged. But there could be a spin for applying to move the medium ZREC that you have for Lapham, which is bigger than you need for Lapham, move that over to the high school. I mean, it's just a thought. It could be.
When does that ZREC expire? Does that, because you probably can't extend
You have
it.
a year to connect it. We did an extension on it there was an opportunity to extend some of these things at no charge due to COVID. So I had applied for that. So we've got, it expires a year from it expires a year from April 1st, the one for Lapham. You have a year to connect it, and the clock starts to tick April 1st.
You know, I would just mention too, that another possibility, you know, we walked away from that big machine proposal at the microgrid at the high school because it was kind of scary and it was really producing more electricity than we needed. And it only it only made sense if we had Waveney Care Center and the YMCA participating as well. But we also have the possibility, as has been done in some other towns. We own the land next to the Eversource substation over on 123, and we're permitted legally to be in the electricity generating business. And we could install an investor-owned, what do you call that technology, Mark? It's the gas
Fuel cell?
fuel cell, which Connecticut is going to be championing with the Biden administration to try to support the fuel cell industry in Connecticut. We have 3 manufacturers, and produce electricity adjacent to the substation and sell it to Eversource. So, you know, there's various possibilities here where we can use the opportunity to use gas, being in the business of generating electricity, which we're allowed to do as a municipality, and then achieve savings overall for the town. And when it comes to the CHP and the solar, it's all a matter of timing with it, when roofs are ready and boilers are ready and all that. So it's a complicated mix of opportunities.
There is something Kevin had asked me about a couple times, and I'd been saying, you know, like the savings weren't really exciting, but a possibility to look at virtual net metering, where we would buy shares. So municipalities can offset municipal electric load by participating in solar farms at an offsite location.
And other towns around, Wilton invited us to join them. You know, other towns are doing that. The farms are up in the northeastern part of Connecticut, but you're getting the benefit by participating.
So you need each meter has to have a minimum of half a megawatt of load to participate. So basically, it would be a way of solarizing off-site, if you will, virtually solarizing high school and the balance of the load at the treatment plant. Maybe Saks, we'd have to see where you end up with your lighting project. You might be too small at that point, but the candidates that would that we could do a request for competitive pricing for virtual net metering, because they're municipal loads and that program still has space, would be to bundle the high school, the remaining electric load at the high school and the treatment plant, and secure long-term contracts by participating in a solar farm elsewhere in Connecticut. So it's a virtual net metering. Virtual because you're not physically connected to that system, but it's all part of that grid.
So anyway, this is, I think we're coming up on our time limit here. Neil and George, anybody have any questions?
I just had one thing about the library, Mark. Did you get to talk to them?
Not yet. No, I'll reach out to them.
We're going to P&Z mid-February, and this is probably a good time to talk to them. They are waiting for you to contact them.
Okay, I'll jump on that. Thank you for the prompt.
So Mark, are you gonna apply, just because we have just this short 2-week period, are you gonna apply for 2 small Z-RECs for the high school, as well as to transfer that medium Z-REC?
Well, coming out of this meeting, if that's the decision, I can do that. Need to check with Dan. I need to get some updated bills, make sure we have all the credentials, meter number, and points of contact updated. And then I can make an inquiry to Pura if I'll research to see if there's any precedent of people being able to transfer their Z-RECs. So that would be exciting. So if we can do that, then we wouldn't apply. I don't want to muddy the waters. I mean, the best thing would, if we could transfer the Lapham Z-REC to the high school. I'll see if I get guidance on that, if that's a possibility. If not, I would at least do a small at the high school meter and a small for the Dunning field. with the idea of doing another, and then installing those small ones, and then doing another small at the high school for the final round, which should be coming up in September. So I don't think there are any more medium rounds. I think there will be two. The rhythm has been that they do two small because they never get all the money out the door. So then they do a final quick hit. And so that's what I think will happen. And then who knows? I mean, maybe something else will, so at least we could secure those smalls, okay? And then maybe something else will happen. I'm sure something else will happen. Some other feed-in tariff may be something we'd look at if that is legislated this summer. And you'll have plenty of roof space to work with. We'd either do the CHP and locate two small systems on the roof of the high school, one of them benefiting the Dunning field. Or we could look at virtual net metering for the balance of the high school load. Or perhaps a year from now, once you've got the smalls commissioned, you could do this feed-in tariff concept. I just don't have any economics on it yet.
But in terms of action steps, I mean, we really do want to try and get the smalls, because there really isn't any downside if we get them and then something changes and we have to come back for a different kind of approach. But as Kevin says, there's a lot of moving parts here within the Board of Ed and within the town in terms of how are we going to, is the high school going to convert to LED lights, and what does that imply in terms of savings? And all of this is going to wind up having to be in at least some kind of budget presentation for February, or actually for sooner for the Board of Selectmen. So,
Well, George, we'll pass whatever we can on to the Board of Finance to decide, because everything's in motion. So
Yeah.
we just have to make some decisions by the end of February.
And just to let you know, George, we are going out to bid this week on the LED light projects at both Saks and so we have money in the current year's budget to complete those two projects, and we plan to do that.
Okay. And then does that have knock-on implications for how big the small units have to be for the high school, if in fact we take some of the electrical load off because we've moved to LED lighting from incandescent?
I don't think we would jeopardize, we would use all the generated electricity from two small Z-Recs. It's only 200,000 kW.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we also have to spend a little time, not today, on overseeing who's going to oversee and monitor this growing portfolio. Not today's thing, but maybe in that budget process, just accountability, just whose job is looking at the big picture as it continues to grow.
Further questions? It's 9:38, and I did want Tiger to run through the capital budget. Any further questions for Mark for now? Okay, thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Mark, thank you.
All right. Happy New Year, everybody.
Thanks.
You too.
Okay, back to Tiger.
Okay, thanks. Kevin, do you want me to do the buildings that we're looking at conversion, or do you want me to go straight to capital?
Well, just run through the buildings to convert. I mean, it's actually something we ought to have in the back of our minds as to how much progress we've made. We still don't have the gas lines into Main Street for the town hall, but that's coming very soon with the hooking up with Locust.
Right, yeah, so I'll share my screen. This is a draft of a listing of the buildings that we have that will some will be bringing online as far as it goes. So far to date.
Can you enlarge that?
Again, get it as big as I can. Try to
Just hit the upper square on the right-hand corner.
Yeah, go to the square up in the right corner.
trying. You messed me up. about as big as I'm gonna get. I'll send this to everyone as well, just so we're aware. In the end, we've got 3 buildings right now converted.
Well, we have 4 of the 5 schools converted.
Correct. I'm talking town. Sorry. But as far as town conversions go, we have the Saks Garage and the police department, and one other. I'm sorry. The schoolhouse apartments have been converted. We are looking at this winter, as Mark mentioned, we're bringing gas into the highway apartment complex. So we'll be looking at changing over the highway garage, the scale house, and the control building for the wastewater treatment facility. The other buildings either don't have a boiler or a little bit more problematic as far as location to the gas line, or the actual size of the unit. Later on this summer, Eversource is looking to bring gas up Main Street, which will then bring it past our complex at Town Hall. We'll be looking at bringing the Town Hall and the Town Hall Annex online, as well as the fire department. The unit at Vine Cottage is quite small and probably is not worthy of conversion at that time. And then we are in the works discussing with Eversource about bringing a line into Waveney to try to bring online the pool itself, the paddle hut, and then Lapham Community Center. The rest of the facilities in Waveney, the distance to say Waveney House or the Powerhouse or the Carriage Barn is about a half a mile of piping, and wouldn't necessarily be cost prohibitive at this point to try to bring anything up to those based upon the size and the usage, whether it be beneficial for us to bring up anytime anything further. And the rest of the facilities we have, the Nature Center, Irwin Park, things of that nature, Kiwanis are a little bit further off where the gas line is at present. Kiwanis being the closest, but again, the amount of usage that is there is quite minimal for the expenditure to bring gas to those areas and convert those boilers. But I'll send this list around to everyone so you can see exactly where we are and where we stand. We are trying to maximize the amount of conversions that we have and the usage that we will get. Wherever Source goes, we're actually trying to direct them to different areas, say Upper Elm Street, things of that nature. And at that point, we'll look at converting the train station over if that's feasible and worthwhile as well. Kevin, you want me to get to a little bit on capital?
Yep.
All right. So on the capital side, excuse me, town building wise, as we mentioned before, we've got a $7.5 million marker over 2 separate years for the police station for a total of 15. That was up from a $5,000 marker. We have a $246,000 line item for Saks Garage. We're looking at putting in an additional area of roofing, shed roof, so that we can get the majority of John's equipment under cover. A lot of his small equipment is out in the element and subject to wear and tear, just like sitting outside. And we're not maximizing the amount of usage or the amount of time that we can get out of its useful life just by the fact that they're sitting out. We are looking at possibly changing this alignment on the roof line to see if we can't get solar on this as well. It just means placing the roof line in a different configuration. At present, it doesn't face in the proper direction. The back side of the garage just doesn't face in an area where it would optimize use for solar. We have, sorry, Kevin. Oh,
Just a
sorry.
quick question with regards to the police station, Tiger, the 15 million, but we had talked not long ago that a new police station would be more like 18 to 20. Is there any reason why we're focused on 15, or what's the source of that information?
No, we just had this number earlier than when we actually had that discussion. I can tweak it and bring it up further. It's not a marker for in my opinion, it's not a marker for the committee to be at 15.
Yeah, Stuart, keep in mind it'd be a net cost for a new building, whereas renovation would be less than the 15. So.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're setting expectations realistically. That's all.
Correct. I guess the other alternative is if we said that it was an open checkbook, then you set the wrong expectation as well, right? So,
Right.
but given the fact that it was 5 last year, we brought up to 7.5 this year, so it's a $5 million increase overall. You know, I think that that's helping us set it in the correct direction, so to speak. We do have money slated for NICVAC to convert, actually to separate it from the police department and put in a heating system. There is a discussion as to whether or not this should be part of the police department renovation itself, enrolled into that number instead of just being a standalone number. We have money in for the Irwin Park barn as far as the new roof is concerned. And then we have some money slated for the Waveney potting shed at $168,000. That's to convert, to basically put in a new roof, work the entire outside, put in a new floor on the inside, and get it ready for a bathroom installation. That's in partnership with the Waveney Conservancy. We'd look to finish the building itself and then go in and put a bathroom in inside. So we'd have facilities in and around Waveney House itself for year-round bathroom facilities, given the increased usage of the park. If we go on to Public Works Administration Engineering, we have our $2.5 million of paving slated for next year. This has been a standard number. $2 million is bonded, and the additional $438,000 is from various grants, the TAR grant, Town Aid Road grant, and then the LoCIP grant. It's approximately $300,000 from the Town Aid Roads and about $125,000 from LoCIP. That's an annual amount of money from the state that we receive. We are looking to start the construction of Collins Pond. It's a 50-50 share with the federal government, state and federal government. It's under design right now, but we're trying to fast track that. And we're looking at, it will go under construction within the next 18 months when this budget is in play. And then we have our various pavement preservation. That's our crack seal and, localized repairs, some drainage work, guide rail. We are looking into bring into a energy savings initiative or master plan. So we have $25,000 to cover the capital costs on that, to try to then, Neil, to your point, as far as overseeing and monitoring, giving us accountability and then a path forward. This will help us kind of quantify that and give us monies in our budget to actually have that happen itself.
Hey,
as far
Tiger, let me stop you there as far as the sidewalks. Because if we're getting the Richmond Hill and Main Street side grants from the state, aren't those 22 projects for that would be funded by the state grants?
Yes, but those are funded outside, and they were already we already received the approval to go forward with the grant, so they're not included in here at all. I could include them certainly if you want to see it, and then just put it in the other column as far as grants, but we hadn't. That's not the way we were running with it.
Okay,
We certainly can do that.
Yeah, we have other state funded, state grant funded projects for sidewalks that we hope to be doing this summer.
If you wanted to change that, number to 2.1 million and have 500,000 from the town and 1.6 million from other,
yeah,
we can certainly talk to Linda about that and give a greater picture of what we're looking at for the year. That might be helpful as well. Can see the actual investment in the sidewalk system. So I think that that's a good idea. Moving. Yes.
Tyra, Penny, you scrolled rather quickly, so I didn't catch what's in the budget for Waveney House. Is there anything?
We have nothing in the right now. We're working through phase 3. The contractor just started with its layout, and then we put off phase 1 and phase 2 until fiscal 23, not fiscal 22. Moving forward with, say, the elevator or bathroom conversion at present. We felt it was better to get us around, and then look to see what our final path would be the house itself. There's a lot of moving parts in there, and so we
Right.
felt it was best just to kind of get ourselves in, get us done, and then, get our footing and then go forward again.
And that phase 3, which is now moved forward, is to be finished by what, June?
June, that's correct. Right.
Okay,
We have monies inside the highway department budget for an engineering study for a salt barn to give us a salt barn and start to look at possibly removing the incinerator buildings that are there. We have $50,000 for that. That'll give us a kind of a go, no go as to whether or not a salt barn will be able to be situated anywhere else on the site other than up on top near the old incinerator buildings. We have monies in the transfer station strictly for new gates, things of that nature, security gates. And then on the parks, fields is our other large projects. We have $300,000 set aside to offset some of the costs from the athletic foundation master plan as they move forward. So that's town support of their initiative. Then we have a playground replacement and increase up at Waveney. The existing exercise equipment next to the large parking lot at Waveney needs to be replaced. And we're looking at putting in a children's playground as well at the exact same time adjacent to that. And then we have money set aside for the second year of the Bristow Bird Sanctuary project at $112,000. The initial phase 1 of trail installation and improvements, and then the pond dredging went extremely well. Usage in the park has started to increase, and this helps us move forward to our celebration of the centennial of Bristow itself. Then we have some money slated for the sewer department, approximately $300,000. These vary, but the largest one being we're now at the 20-year mark, 20-year plus for our larger infrastructure, and we're looking at replacing the clarifier drive, replacing and rehabbing that. We have 2 clarifiers there, and then we'll be looking at our carousel equipment. These are starting to get into the larger ticket items at the plant itself, but the materials are in very good shape, and we're looking at not a sole replacement, but basically rehabbing the existing and then replacing some of the worn parts. So I know I ran through that quite fast, but we were kind of pushing up against a time limit at 10 o'clock, so I wanted to leave a little time for questions.
Tiger,
Sure.
quick question, and I know this may be a public relations question that Kevin's going to want to jump in on, but as you look at making changes to the general area and the transfer station and all, are there any thoughts of doing anything with the animal shelter? I know that long-term, there's an opportunity to go to a regional facility, but that could be 3-4 years off I would guess at the very earliest. And I know that a number of individuals have come to me and said, if there is ever a capital campaign to do a renovation to the animal shelter, they want to participate and contribute to that capital campaign. So there may be some private funding that could be available while it's a very top of mind topic for the community.
The short answer is yes. We are looking at various options as to either a new location or a revised location for the animal control shelter. One was we were looking at the structure down at Kiwanis that used to house our animal control officer, George Cogswell, the first one. Sort of this somewhat of a symmetry there. And then the other thought was that if we were to remove the existing incinerator where it's currently housed, to then bring in a facility there, or there are, since it is a police function, possibly bring it over to the police department. So there's certain, we are looking at all options at present. If we were to take it down at the incinerator and want to put it back where it is, we could certainly bring in a modular structure there on the footprint that it houses already, and then place it somewhat back in its current location. So
Yeah.
we are looking at it. We're not boxing ourselves out of any situation or any alternative at present.
Right. Well, maybe at one point, again, there's a very high level of interest from the community to provide some funding for it. So if I don't know what your time frame might be, if it's still a year out or 6 months out, but the iron is hot right now. If
Any
you're
movement on
interested in taking advantage of that.
any movement of bringing the building down and having to relocate them is at least a year out.
Yeah.
So we have time in that regard. That doesn't mean that we couldn't be looking, and the fact that we are looking at other alternatives to it. Westport had a very successful capital campaign for their dog shelter as well. So we would certainly like to partner if that's the possibility.
Sure. Okay.
Any other questions or?
Tiger, maybe, and maybe we already see this, maybe a column or so might be missing, but when we take a look at this for the Board of Selectmen, perhaps if you would be kind enough to share what the actual expenses were for capital items that are recurring. So just an example, the zinc phosphorus expense, is that something that's already there?
No, not on this,
Okay.
but we can certainly tell you, we can give you a synopsis as to what we've spent.
Right.
I can tell you that we don't spend the entire allotment, the entire 20,000. We have, or we haven't.
Mhm.
We have had good news on that front. We are looking at our new permit, and there might be some movement on that zinc phosphorus permit levels for us at present. So there is but that's still in the discussion phase with the DEP.
Okay.
We've done excellent work.
Right.
sorry?
I wasn't picking on that particularly, but anything
No, it's okay.
that you see where you have recurring capital costs in the future, just curious as to what we've spent thus far this year, the year before, et cetera.
We can certainly do that. Sometimes it's say on the guide rail, we might spend 35 or 40,000 in 1 year and then spend 60 in the next.
Got it.
Things of that nature, since it rolls with us, but we can give you a synopsis on especially on the recurring items itself.
Kathleen, we can run a life to date report for all active projects and include that as an addendum so you could see that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions?
We're coming up.
Kevin, go ahead.
Well, we're coming up in the hour, so
Yep.
we've covered everything we wanted to cover today.
Okay.
And Tiger, can you take your screen down?
Sure. Sorry.
So, anyone else has before we adjourn?
No.
I would just mention that the comments from the public, I don't know if there was any, but that wasn't addressed on the agenda.
Good catch, Joe. Thank you. I should have mentioned that we would take comments, but otherwise, I move we adjourn. Do we stand adjourned? Thank you all. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.